As promised, I will be sharing with you my personal stories and experience in my 540 days journey without masturbation and pornography. Now, these will be stories about the benefits that I experienced while on this journey. Now, I'll just start with this story of having social superpowers. See, I experienced social superpowers on a group date. Now, this was an organized event where singles were gathered for a night jog session. There were roughly 5 men and 6 women at this organized event. Now, at this point, I was roughly 200 days into being pure, into no fab or semen retention. Now, socializing used to scare me quite a bit when I was younger, but at this stage, 200 days in, I feel mostly calm. Granted, I was also there with a few buddies of mine, but going on group dates in general can be daunting for some people because it's new people, you feel like you're being judged as a sexual or romantic partner. I had sort of like an inner Zen attitude. Like I didn't plan, I didn't calculate, I didn't really have a very clear attack plan. I observed the women at this event and one or two I found attractive enough, and there was one that was agreed upon by the boys as being the most attractive one in this event. The interesting thing is that this particular woman gave off a really closed off and cold vibe. You know, the kind that doesn't really smile that much, that has lower energy, that is colder, right? So the event started out with us walking to the lockers and putting our stuff, and you can see from the moment of having this group meeting, many of the guys were starting to make moves, taking initiative to chat with the chicks, etc. And sometimes you're in a group and you observe people, and these men that I observe just have a very strong sense of striving and trying. They are very likely also fappers, because when I was deep into fapping, I had a lot of this self-doubt, try hard, fidgety, striving type of vibe as well. Now, I personally didn't have an outcome I wanted to force. I felt outcome independent. Like if I didn't get a positive outcome, if I get rejected, I tried, I chatted, the conversation bombed, it really didn't matter to me. I wasn't in my head. Now, I mention this because going longer streaks on semen retention and no fab really does make an impact when it comes to not being in your head and having outcome independence. It doesn't mean you no longer think, but when you do think, it is conscious. It is not thoughts that you are forced to think because some external force is making you feel fear, feel fidgety. You have control. Now back to the story. So after we placed our stuff in the locker, the jog began, right? And obviously the point of this event wasn't the jog. The point was to interact with the opposite gender. So what happened was that from the start, I in general don't like to move too fast. So I was like at the back of the group where you can imagine the slowest runner would be. And when the jog started, the most attractive girl out of all of them also started to slow down and position herself right in front of me during the jog. Now, what happened is there happened to be another guy that was eyeing this chick, obviously wanting to talk to her, right? So from my vantage position at the back, I was just observing this dude. So this was just at the start, nothing real, no conversations were happening. He didn't really seem centered. He had nervousness written all over his face, and I could see in his face the clash between his desires and his fears. So there was like a desire of wanting to speak, but there was also the fear of, hey, I don't know what to say, what if. Now, maybe it is good to have empathy. And I think in general, men should and do have empathy for other men. But in this particular event on a group date, it's really all meant for himself. So I simply jogged up to the girl and said hi, hello. So hello was my opener. And that was all that mattered. So I mean, the guy was just somewhere at the side while I was chatting and then just speaking to this girl. And I think sometimes a lot of the overthinking comes from the kind of man you were before the date. Like, you have to put in work on yourself before the date. It's not like as if, oh, I have a date in 30 minutes and then suddenly I can conjure up this new self of mine that's going to be so attractive. You see, I had the advantage of 200 days of not fapping in preparing for this group date. So how can this fapper dude compete in terms of calmness, in terms of steadiness? Now, of course, this is just a way of speaking. Perhaps there are some womanizers that are very successful in socializing even while addicted to pornography. So we had this conversation, me with this girl, and what happened was actually the conversation turned out rather difficult. Like, the energy of this chick was low and I wasn't really vibing that well with her, which I realized was more from my point of view because she was just used to giving 1-2 words answer, you know, a typical very nonchalant kind of conversationalist. So I came up with topic after topic after topic. But to be frank, I was rather tired finding conversations with this girl. Not that she was rude, she genuinely just spoke in a way that makes it difficult for other people to continue conversation. So a good 20 to 30 minutes of conversation of me talking a lot. There were like some fireworks that were shot along the riverside that we were jogging. So the group stopped, we took some pictures, and the group naturally started to rearrange where some dudes wanted to talk to this top chick and other chicks wanted to talk to other dudes, such as myself, right? Now I said this because they literally came up and made conversation with me. Now, is the reason why they approached me no fap alone? Maybe not. I mean, group date, they come expecting to socialize. I genuinely do not know, but what I do know is that a lot of these social superpowers, where social calm is part of it, it was already with me like 60 days into NoFap. But because I wasn't in a social environment, when you're in front of computers or you're having a meal with a friend rather than a stranger, you can't really tell the changes in your social state or your social powers, right? So what happened with this group of 2 chicks was that I was on fire, right? Like, there were many laughters heard. They were laughing at whatever I was saying. And I kid you not, like every single sentence and comment that I made brought laughter. Now you may think that, hey, but I don't really see Dom as like a funny dude. But it doesn't really matter what you think, because when women are trying to get your attention, they do tend to laugh and puff at your slightest comments. Even if you say something, okay, like just something that is very simple, they feel comfortable and then they will laugh. So this laughter started happening in the group, and somehow within the bigger group, I became the narrator, the MC, and the leader of the social environment, making comments, trying to link the people up together, bantering with them, teasing them, and having normal conversations, all the while being in this state of social calm and flow. Now it felt good. Social freedom feels good. Even the name of this channel, Unapologetically Free, is the idealized self of mine wanting to know that I can be free as an individual unapologetically. That means that I value my own opinions of myself above other people. And it is so important as a man to be able to value yourself above others. You know why? Because you are you. And you have to learn to value yourself above others, like above the voices of even your loved ones, because you are you and you owe yourself that. So back to this, social freedom, the expression of words from my mind to my mouth, coming out from my mouth in a seamless fashion without overthinking. That itself was enjoyable, not so much about the outcome. See, at the end of the event, everyone was asked, I think you were supposed to text the event organizer, like which participants are you interested in, etc. So to be fair, I didn't want to play around, so I didn't like write down every single chick's name. So I only wrote down the names of the 2 girls that I found attractive. And one of them, the top chick, the one that I actually spoke to, also wanted to get to know me more. Now, so what happened is, of course, every single guy in this group wrote down this girl's name. But what happened was I was the only guy that she was interested in meeting. So, long story short, we made plans for a first date and went for the date with each other. Now, maybe this story is your everyday life. You could be a social beast, no problem, socialize up, down, left, right. But maybe this story is a version of a story that you would also like to be in. Maybe socializing has not been your strong forte. Or maybe you just don't care about any of this. And the whole point of this about social freedom, about this story, is that it is made a lot more available through simply practicing nofap and semen retention. I didn't study like any techniques or apply any materials when I enjoyed the night. I simply said hello and I let my pure body and pure mind do its work. Now, this is quite a long story, so I'll just take a pause on this video soon and I'll share more in the next part of the video. Now, if you want to apply the secrets to succeed in nofap once and for all, if you're tired of an unproductive life, if you're tired of being lied to by people telling you that your life can change in the matter of days, visit my Patreon page in the description box and support me at the Unapologetic Warrior tier and above, and get this book that I'm writing and apply the hacks right now to win in life. I'll see you again.